Host of Forged in Fire.
Kyle Mann.
I'm Jay Warner Wallace.
Kira Davis.
It's Ben Abbott.
Hey, this is Dave Baker.
Carrie Pomeroli.
This is Mike Reiner.
This is Ethan Nicole.
This is Liam Morgan.
This is Graham Parker. This is GP. And this is why you should never.
Never.
How I got suckered in.
I'm so embarrassed that I'm here.
You're wasting your time. You got better things to do.
Never listen.
Those darling, yummy Reverend and the Reprobate.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Reverend and the Reprobate, a show about two best buds interviewing people they have no business talking to. My name is Lucas Pinkert. I'm an actual Reverend, and with me today, filling in the seat of the Reprobate, is my best bud from his birth to
now,
yeah,
present day,
and my entire remembery, because I can't remember anything BM before Matt. Do you like that? You like?
I don't care for it. I don't care for it.
It's my brother. It is the man himself, Matt Pinkert. What's going on, dude?
Not a lot. Moved into a new place.
Yeah, congratulations.
Lots of moving that's still happening.
And like 3 different types of fence.
Four different kinds of fence. All of them in disrepair.
Right.
It's fantastic. In no way conceivable to man.
All right. Well, good.
Yeah, but the rest of it's good. I mean, to move into a new place, bouncing around from place to place was not ideal, and having a place where I can lay my head and go, "Hey, I live here," is nice.
Yeah, that's kind of awesome to be back in there. For those of y'all who don't know, we took a little bit of a hiatus, about 6 months. Danley is going to be making periodic appearances on the show as his schedule and things allow, as he's got, we've been pretty open about, or he's been really open about his wife and dealing with her autoimmune disease. He's got a son who is been on the show. We've had some appearances from Kale whenever we were talking to the Mink Man, and he came and was dressed up in a little tuxedo whenever we did the Mother's Day episode and was serving the ladies. He's just an absolute stud. He started high school, and so as we were trying to schedule things out and what the future of the show would look like, we had a really great conversation about how as a man, and especially as a godly man, like family's got to take priority. And so he stepped into that role, and we made some adjustments, and now we're firing things back up, and I'll be excited on the episodes that he gets to come on and chat and give us some life updates and do some interviews. But for now, we're rolling with what we got, and we are coming back from hiatus with the guy who started it all for us. With David Baker. Yep, so David Baker from Forged in Fire. He talks a little bit about the future of Forged in Fire. He talks about a new event that he's got coming up with Jay Nielsen, the Texas Select Custom Cutlery event that's going to happen just outside of Austin, Texas on April 6th and 7th of 2024.
New competition he's going to be part of.
A new competition he's a part of that's encouraging college students to get into steelworking, and they've got some incredible things. He's doing that with Ben Abbott as well. Catches us up on all things Dave Baker and talks to us a little bit about the custom blades that he will now be selling starting this year. And actually, one of the things that's happening at the Texas Select Custom Cutlery event, that's such a mouthful.
Texas Select Custom Cutlery
event. That's where he's gonna be at. We are hoping that we'll get back on schedule with giving you guys weekly content from the Reverend and the Reprobate. Bear with us as we are working out some new formatting stuff. And also, there have been a few people who have asked, "Hey, what's the update?" The last they heard, Kirsten we had just announced that Kirsten was pregnant. And now
she still is.
She still is. Yeah, still is. And we are sort of at that like any day now place for baby number 2. So Levi was born 8.5 weeks early, almost 9 weeks early, and we have passed that point in the pregnancy to now where whenever baby number 2 comes, we're going to take him home. And so this has been a totally different kind of adventure, but we'll fill you in on all of that stuff. Until then, thanks for watching. You guys make sure to check out our interview. Without any further ado, David Baker. On these sweet, clean airwaves today, Matt, we have got the guy who was the very first big guest that we had. So much so that it got me to dress up in my gentlemanly attire. I came with my vest and pocket square. Yep, he was my birthday guest in year 1 of the Reverend and the Reprobate. It's the historic weapons recreation specialist, the man who put the man in gentleman. It is the true man, myth, and legend, Mr. David Baker. What's going on, dude?
Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm fantastic.
It's been too long.
No joke. How have you been?
Really good. I was actually going to shoot this from the shop with my pirate flag behind me.
Oh, that would have been sick.
It's up on the wall in the shop.
That's too cool, man.
I absolutely love it. It's fabulous.
I've been keeping up with your stuff on Facebook as your throng, as I'll call it aptly, your throng of fans has as well. You've got a.
I'm sorry, but I didn't know I had a throng.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And you
I might have a passel or maybe a pack, but throng sounds very large.
Yeah, it's in hundreds of thousands according to the meta crew. Yeah, man, you are not only one of the top follows on Facebook, but also one of the top digital content creators. Who knew that was such a thing? So congratulations.
I mean, okay.
Yeah, Dave is one of those guys that makes all the stuff and then never looks at the analytics. He's just like, yeah, a few people thought that it was cool. I'm gonna go back into the hut and make some more swords.
Well, okay. On that note,
yes,
I put a lot of stuff up about men's mental health.
Yes,
due to the fact that I lost a friend a few years ago, a couple of friends, to suicide, and I just kind of realized that I had moments in my life that I didn't feel really put together, or had, a lot of cracks in the walls.
Yeah.
And I share that stuff openly, just about like when I'm feeling rotten.
Yeah.
I throw it out there that like a couple of days ago, it had been gray here for 3 weeks. I hadn't seen the sun except for one afternoon in like 3 weeks.
That sounds miserable.
And I was kind of sinking into this weird kind of depression. So I share things like that in the hopes that other men my age will see that, hey, it's okay to be not okay.
Yeah.
So on that note, I had posted a thing about reaching out during the holidays, because it can be a very lonely time for a lot of people. And a lot of people have some really emotional baggage that always comes up in Christmas. And through a chain of people, I heard that me saying that to somebody who said it to somebody who said it to somebody who said it to somebody got a call from somebody who needed help.
That's awesome.
So we won.
Yeah,
you win one person and you've won.
Absolutely.
You reach out to one, you put stuff out there, be vulnerable yourself, open yourself up for, to share what's going on with you, and you get to one person way down the line, it's a win.
Yeah.
So, so that's, I've got a platform that I've been given because of the show, and a lot of it's, to advertise my own stuff. And the other side is me really trying to give back.
Yeah, which I think you've done a phenomenal job of. I know we've talked to you several times about the stuff with men's mental health, and you and I have been talking about some of the stuff that we can do, in particular with some veterans who have come back and are looking for a way to, apply some of the skills that they've learned, the working with their hands, those types of things, to some stuff that they can do back home. So before we get into that beauty that you have behind you, let's talk about one of the.
It's my halo.
It's lovely. Yeah, if only the Renaissance painters would have done more halos like that, I think that we would have a completely different view of masculinity in their paintings.
Maybe, and we've also might have burned a lot more people at the stake.
Yeah,
but
potential. Potato, tomato. That's how it goes.
Balancing it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm curious about a new project that you're a part of that is encouraging people to get into metalworking trades, kind of within colleges.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
This is fun. Actually, Ben Abbott brought me to them, and I started working with them last year. And Ben and I are both involved in this. The Cast and Steel project. It was originally called the Cast and Steel. I think it's now all in steel because they've included forging.
Okay.
And what it was is in American manufacturing, especially this steel industry, which is what we're in generally tied to, there are not enough people. Period.
Yeah.
I can't remember the number, but it was in the thousands that they were short last year for doing the jobs that need to be done. I mean, the shipyards need more welders. The casting industry needs more everything: designers, engineers, boots on the ground. And it's these are high paying career type jobs with a lot of upward mobility. And I'm constantly hearing from the pundits, the various voices out there who are saying, oh, there's no American manufacturing. There's no, it's all gone away. Well, there are a lot of people, including the DOD, who are trying to bring it back.
Yeah.
Everything from steel manufacturing to, these guys are pouring propellers for submarines. That's like thousands of pounds at a time. That has to be perfect.
Yeah.
It's an amazing industry that I knew so little about because when they first said it to me, I was at a luncheon last year with a lot of the heads of the industry, and they said, well, Dave, we're trying to bring people to this. How do we bring people to this industry? I said, the first thing I thought about when you guys originally said the metal, casting industry, this image of, a guy with the hard hat with the dirty leather coat and his lunchbox walking away from the smoky factory.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, if you Google, metal casting, you will find that image one of the first ones, or an image very similar to it.
I'm doing that right
which
now.
Which was the reality in the 40s,
Yeah.
but is no longer the reality. It's a much more high tech industry. It's even on the ground level. So the project has gotten a bunch of college teams. I think we've got 47 college teams this year. And what they have to make is a Halligan bar, which is the fire department's kind of break-in bar.
Yeah, you guys did that on an episode of Forged in Fire, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. And actually, Ben cast our forged our example. So they need to make a Halligan bar however they want to do it. They can cast it, they can forge it, they can do a combination of the two. And then in Milwaukee at the end of April, we'll have the competition. And, everybody's going to come together with the teams will all be there, and we'll be judging. Ben and I and Phil, a friend of mine, will be doing the judging on the how well they did. Those young people, those college students, will then have the opportunity to, I think there's a tour of a foundry, a major foundry in Milwaukee, a tour of a major forge, I think, in Milwaukee. So it's introducing people to the industry and sort of rebranding, I guess.
Yeah.
The entire metalworking industry. But as a nation, we need people to move into those jobs. I think the government recently just ordered 3 submarines. These are multi-year contracts doing everything from casting to welding to electronics to everything else. So it's American manufacturing. Yes, it's maybe it's the military industrial complex at this point, but with an infrastructure bill, we're rebuilding bridges. That's all steel work. That's all steel manufacturing. The more American steel and American workers we can have on these jobs in design, in steel manufacturing, transport, everything else, it's a big kind of upside down tree. but without the bodies, without the literally bodies going into this job course, we will always be falling behind.
Why do you think that so many young people are not getting involved in this when there's such a need, right? Why do you think it is that there's not a new generation of people filling those
Thanks
jobs?
for throwing me under the bus.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Honestly, I think that if we live in an America where there are so many options, many of which are somewhat make-believe options.
Yeah.
How many people are making a living or trying to make a living being content creators online?
Not us. Even as content creators, that's not what we're trying to do.
And what does that do?
Yeah.
Nothing really. It's kind of a giant distraction. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I watch a bunch of content creators and they do a great job and it's very entertaining. That's not what I'm saying. It's more, okay. I'm sorry, but I just fall into being a boomer,
I can appreciate that.
When I was a kid, we were working at 15 or 16, we had a job.
Yeah.
That's all you wanted to do was get a job so you could buy a car, so you could cruise around when you weren't working.
Yeah.
That's all we thought about. Most of my friends left the house, within months of graduating high school. You'd stack up in an apartment. How many people can we get in here? How many beds can we get in here so we're not living at home?
Right.
And you work, you just, you did whatever. Yes, there were less people. There was a different economy. Things were less expensive, sort of. I mean, the dollar was worth more, but, so it's hard to say why, but a lot of it's just, I think people don't realize that the manufacturing industry is not necessarily standing in front of a machine in a gray uniform, pushing the red button, pushing the green button, pushing the red button, pushing the green button.
Yeah.
And companies are offering further education. A number of companies, from what I understand, realized that they were eliminating half of their workforce by saying, oh, you have to have a college degree to do a job that has nothing to do with art history. Great, you got a philosophy degree. That doesn't help you in a high-tech manufacturing world,
right.
Probably.
Yeah,
but you get through the door if you had that degree.
Right. Yeah, your art degree is not going to help you pour propellers.
Yeah, and you have Micro and a lot of other people pushing for trade schools again. Mm-hmm. And I think that's completely valid. When I left high school, for the 3 years that I went, I really didn't go for my senior year because I had a job and I had work
right.
Credit. I studied architecture, technical drawing, and drafting. I could draw blueprints when I graduated high school.
Wow.
It's not even offered anymore.
No.
I mean, our high school was building a car in the auto shop. The woodworking thing, I think they were selling furniture. I don't, it's.
There aren't those options in most high schools any longer.
No, you're taught to pass a test. And I think it's sad that those options aren't there. And I understand, yes, those options are expensive. But there's a lot of kids out there who are absolutely brilliant and like ADD and dyslexic like me. We're not going the college route, period. It's not going to happen.
Right.
But, give us a wrench and we'll take a motor apart and put it back together before lunch.
Yeah.
Ask us how to figure out, some kind of water dynamic thing. We'll do it without the math. And it's not offered. Those tracks just aren't offered to anybody who doesn't have a college degree. And I'm not knocking people who have a college degree. I think it's a great thing if you can do it, if you can afford it. if you can make it through, but there's other ways. And there's other ways we as a nation, I think, can open up avenues for people for non-traditional education. So those who have the inclination to go into manufacturing and construction and things like that have an avenue and can start on the ground running when they get out of school.
I think it's interesting that I'm looking at a thing here from Forbes magazine. It says that of the Fortune 500 companies, 40% of them in 2024 are no longer going to require a college degree during the application process.
Yeah,
right. So this is massive shift. But I also think it's funny that we think about, like, as far as in the cultural zeitgeist right now, that we're talking about trade school as though it's non-traditional education, when which is wild to me, because up until the mid 20th century, trade school was the only education. Like, how much as far as like in the United States have we completely flipped on its ear the entirety of the education system?
Unfortunately, I think a lot of it is just straight politics, in that as the system gets bigger and bigger, the idea of standardization became more and more popular.
Yeah.
And critical thinking wasn't taught. How to pass a test was taught, because if you get your entire school or 80% of it to pass, you get more government money.
Accreditation.
So, and I don't have any answers. I have no idea how to fix it. It's way beyond me how to restructure an entire bureaucracy. The idea of burning it to the ground and starting over is ridiculous and foolish.
Right.
But reintroducing some of the basics, like civics classes. I mean, some of the young people I've talked to over the past few years really would have done well to have a civics class or a social studies class.
Mm-hmm.
Or a legitimate history class where they didn't just have to memorize presidents' names. You can probably hear it in my voice. I get a little frustrated with the talk.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's one of those things. We're experiencing, I think, a shift in generations, where you're right. There is a group of people that all they have seen growing up, because like Generation Z is the first natively digital generation. Like they do not know a time without the internet. And so they've been inundated with influencers their entire life, whereas people that are our age, that are old millennials, and the generations that came before us, the idea of doing a job on the internet seems completely ridiculous, because you can't go to the internet. Like, I'm not going to drive
turns on the internet. It's like, you get it for 15 minutes, I get it for 15. Not everybody in the house could even be on the internet at the same time.
So there's this weird shift, and what we're finding with a lot of the students that we're working with is that they didn't know that trade school was even an option.
Right.
So what are you guys doing with the projects that you're working with? Like, how are you seeing students get involved in those projects that maybe never saw trade school as an option before, and now, with the competitions and things that you're doing, that now for the first time they're seeing they're seeing the viability in it and finding something new they can get their hands into?
Well, at this point, we've just started talking about, and remember, I'm just a celebrity who shows up and tries to push this stuff. I'm not making any of the decisions. But from what I understand, after I think they've been doing the program for 4 years now, they're really just starting to say, hey, let's add trade schools.
That's too cool.
This has all been colleges.
Nice.
For right now. And the talk is, how do we get it even younger? How do we, take it to high schools? How do we take it, do we go through the Boy Scouts? I met a guy who's going to be directing some ROTC things. It's like, man, that's perfect. You go do your military stuff, you come out and go right into the hardcore manufacturing trades. It's ideal. You've got college paying, your military's paying for your college is feeding you straight into a literal career course with jobs that, companies are screaming for you to come do. I think one of the problems is generations much younger than me, which is most, don't see it as being a sexy way to make a living. This idea that the white collar, blue collar line, is something. It's not. Yeah. It's not my dad's generation. It's not what, the jobs that are being offered right now. Pension. Have you heard pension in a job lately?
No, absolutely not.
Have you heard, multi-year, it's like people shift jobs. I can't remember what the average is every 5 years or something.
5 to 8 years. There's a new gig. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is funny because we've been doing Forged for 8 years and it's the longest job I've ever had.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know how it all works, but I know there's a need, and I'm passionate about American manufacturing and things being made here and being involved. And if I can bring people into a career path that's going to, earn them a good living, for one, offer them long-term job security with a skill, it's a win-win.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned the military industrial complex, which I've been this year. My goal is to average a book a week. So I'm on pace right now to hit just shy of 60 books. And one of the eras that I've been fascinated with, because we've recently been watching the Apple TV Plus show Masters of the Air, which just wrapped up this week, which is about the bomber pilots of the Bloody Hundredth in World War II. So we watched The Pacific, which is also produced by the same people, and Band of Brothers. And one of the guys from Band of Brothers, in his book, Stephen Ambrose was talking about him, and he said, when we signed up for the Army, they told us, hey, you can make $20 a month. But if you go to the Airborne, you can make $25 a month. And he goes, we've never heard of the Airborne before. So I asked the guy, what are we doing? And he goes, you'll be jumping out of airplanes. And he was like, I mean, for $5 more a month, I would definitely jump out of airplanes. And I'm thinking, in my mind, that seems absolutely ridiculous. And when we talk about, for instance, the way that it's often viewed, hey, you know what? My great grandparents only paid $2,000 for their house. It's ridiculous that a house is going for $400,000. Well, they also made $25 a month for jumping out of airplanes, and didn't make $300 for the entire year. Right. So there's
the military's never paid that well.
Well, so. That's true. Right. But there's so many of those things that, if we did know our history and we were looking at it, that we can see that each generation has kind of had its struggles. And one of the things that really transcends generations is the ability to create. Is if you are a person who can create, whether it is in a creative field with painting or with music or with those kinds of things, or if it is in an engineering field where you're actually creating things, the world is always going to need people that have the ability to create things. And I think what you guys are doing with this competition and promoting that kind of thing that's too cool.
Yeah, and what I think, one of the things that one of the teams last year, I can't remember what team it was, half of the team was from the art department.
Really?
Yeah. So half the team was the engineers and half was art. And bringing those together, that's true creative engineering.
Yeah.
Having the artistic sense, the visual sense, and then the engineers to say, oh, I understand your visual. These are the parts we need. And having those come together, I think that's the ideal mix. It's just there's so many levels to it that I'm learning, and it's funny, being in June I'll be 62, and to start this whole new learning thing is fascinating to me. It's absolutely wonderful. I'm lucky to be a part of it. But I just think we've got a lot of room to improve. I think attaching it to a military track would be ideal. Because again, my father, came out of the Army after World War II and went to SC on the GI Bill. Now, I don't think the GI Bill will get you through SC anymore, USC.
Yeah.
But what if there was an option that you could, while you were working in the military, you can start your training to go into something else. I mean, there's a lot of downtime from what I understand with the military. So,
yep.
Anyway, again, ideas.
Yeah. It's so cool just to see the resurgence, I think, in craftsmen and in people having an interest in those types of things, especially amongst the hobbyists and the amateurs, and now realizing, hey, you know what? This is a viable thing that I could turn into a gig, and watching that shift.
Yeah,
is
and
fun.
then that's one of the things I'm really, really proud of the show for is showing people that, you can do this. I mean, the number of Smiths who have been on our show, win or lose, who have gone pro is amazing.
That's pretty awesome.
And the expansion of the business. I remember when we started out, there was a lot of pushback that, you're going to dilute everything, and there are going to be too many people selling $50 knives, and there's plenty of people selling $50 knives. But guess what? People now know the difference between a $50 knife and a $100 knife and a $1,000 knife.
Mm-hmm.
And you have laymen who are not builders being able to identify these things and turning them into not only high-end tools for chefs and hunters and whatever, but also into collectibles.
Yeah.
So, we've crossed from, it's a balance of art and artisan, where the tool actually, I love old Stanley tools from the 40s and 30s because they've got all that beautiful scroll work on them and, beautiful wood and little brass, etching and stuff like that. So having a knife that does that same thing in your kitchen, it's fabulous. It's something you can share. It's something you can also pass down.
Yep.
But like you were saying, it has shown that anyone can do it. Anybody can go and paint, and anybody can go and hammer out a knife, and it doesn't mean you're going to be good.
No, but you can do it.
I absolutely suck at it, but you can do it. And I think we've seen that on the show. The competitors who have come back a couple of years later at a level that's so far beyond where they were when they first competed. Because they've thrown everything into it. I think it's exciting. It's wonderful to watch.
Yeah, the redemption episodes have been pretty cool in that regard. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
In the episodes where y'all take the stuff that just failed and gone, all right, new Smiths, y'all have to make something out of this.
I hate that. It's like, great.
Yeah, something we already know is broken. We have to make it into something.
Yeah, exactly.
Useful.
This car did not make it around the racetrack. It's yours now.
Yeah, congratulations.
But isn't that the story with steel in general? My understanding is that there's no new steel really being made. It's all recycled now. Is that accurate?
No, that's not true. I mean, they're constantly making new stuff. It's new alloys, which is another fascinating thing.
Yeah, that was. I thought it was all new alloys, but the ore and their original materials, I thought that's what they were melting down to make. That's what I was told in school. I don't know how true it is because I never researched it.
Yeah,
are they making?
No, they're still mining ore all over the place. Again, I think that's another industry that is changing drastically. There's so many new sciences, and keeping up with them, I think, is the hard part. I mean, I've got phones here in this house that you cannot connect to the internet anymore because the software is too old.
Right.
It's like, what? The phone works.
Right.
Why can't I do the thing with my thumbs and make things happen?
Yeah.
No, that software is too far behind. Your phone doesn't have enough memory to upload the software. And, You see that with, the new cargo ships won't fit through the Panama Canal.
Really?
New cruise ships that won't fit in Government Cut in Miami. Where the technologies are outdistancing the infrastructure that serves them.
That's insane.
It is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like my son asked me a long time ago, is it okay to punch a robot?
What was your answer?
Right until Skynet says Skynet is aware.
Yeah.
Then it's a good idea to change your attitude.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Your memory is long, though. I feel like it would just be a good idea to not start.
Well, again, it's like, AI is a whole new world. I don't understand any of it. But I'm told that my phone has it or something.
Right.
Yeah.
It's listening. It's creating ads based off of all of that.
I say
So it knows
fucking
something.
Google, and the phone goes, what can I do for you? Oh.
Heard that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not good.
So,
But anyway, we'll see where it goes. We meet again for the competition at the end of April, and the heads of a lot of these companies will be there, and folks in the DoD will be there, and we're going to see how we can expand this to bring more people into the fold. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
do you know what the competition? You said submarine propellers. That's the kind of stuff that they're going to cast, or that's the kind of stuff they're looking at.
That's the thing that the industry casts.
I was going to say that seems like a huge undertaking. What kind of things would they be casting in the competition? Can you give us a little bit about that?
This season's the Halligan bar.
The Halligan bar.
So they need to make a Halligan bar, and if you've ever seen the fire bar, the bar firemen use it has a fork at one end and the adze at the other end and a spike on it.
It's a crazy.
So you can pry open the door, bust out a window, pop a tire, whatever you need to do with this one tool. It's the fireman's pry bar.
And forge or melt it down and cast.
Forged or cast. Yeah, you can do either one.
Melting it. Yeah, casting it. So
but again, so there are some large manufacturing foundries who are working with these college teams. So they make their design, figure out what alloys they want to use, and then they're going to these major foundries. So they do get a certain amount of experience on seeing how these things are poured. And then, giant sand casting or investment casting, however they do them. I honestly, it's outside of.
I know this is a tool and not a weapon, but it could be used as a weapon. So I'm going to kind of segue that into. So,
well,
historically,
again, it's a shape
is it
we can
something?
test.
Yeah, is it something that casting wouldn't normally have been done, historically speaking, or is that inaccurate to say? Because I've seen the swords being cast, and I'm like, that's not something that I feel like they would cast an ingot and then forge a sword.
But yes, and with steel, yes, but bronze, all the bronze swords were cast.
So before the time, what made it change from, hey, let's cast a sword to let's cast an ingot and forge a sword? Other than the material being used, or is that the main?
Because maintaining the heat to pour steel is beyond, and steel is malleable at heat, but really high heat for liquid. Bronze melts at a much lower temperature. So your forges back in the day or your foundries back in the day could melt the bronze a lot easier. Crucible steel, to make it, I think you got to get near 3,000 degrees. I'm not sure. I don't make steel, but
wow.
So yeah, so it took a different kind of a forging a foundry process to make the ingot that would then be drawn out through forging into a bar or a billet or whatever shape you need. So,
but now we have the technology.
I was just given. Is it here? No, it's not. That's it. I was just given a puck of Wootz steel, which is the steel that was originally called Damascus steel. And so a friend of mine out in California has been working very hard to recreate a lot of the ancient steels. And so he just gave me a puck to work with.
That's awesome.
That's too cool.
Yeah, I know. I'm very excited, and I'm sitting there going, but it's like one of those things that I need enough time, like a solid week to start it and work it, as opposed to,
Yep.
running off this way, running off that way.
That's not something you rush.
Yeah.
And so until May, I'm kind of just flying, just a lot of different directions. Did a hammer in yesterday. I've got people coming next week to stay at the house and study. So, doing the teaching thing. So, a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah.
How is the teaching thing going? Because that's
I'm
something you really
just
wanted to
starting
do out
it.
at the new place.
Next week is my my guinea pig. Gentleman I've talked to online. He's bringing his son. He wants to build something for his retirement from the Navy, and his son's going to take a knife. He and his son will be given a knife making class, and they'll be staying here for the weekend. So,
That's very cool.
yeah, a couple of days in the forge, and a couple of nights here hanging out.
That's too cool. So, speaking of things that have been happening in the forge, what is that big, beautiful piece that's behind you?
It's the thing that changed my dining room into the Great Hall.
That's excellent.
That's awesome.
For years, I've had this idea. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Back through time. My family has a lot of genealogy and documented genealogy. My mother's maternal line is the Ballou family, Ballou, and they go back to the founding of Rhode Island. So they've been here since the 1860s. 1660s. And my maternal grandfather was so jealous of that book, he did a bunch of work on the McCornack family and did a genealogy with some other McCornacks. And they came over, I think, in the 1880s, the Scottish line. And then we did a bunch more. I did a genealogy thing recently, and my cousin was following the Baker line back through history, and it's all very interesting stuff. So I decided to make basically an art piece with swords. So each one of those swords represents a historical character from my family.
Are they any particular order, starting with the
not
date range
really.
or anything?
If you start over here at 11, that's the oldest member I know in the family, or the oldest documented member in the family, and that's I don't know how to pronounce it. Something like Jean-Bon Ballou, and he was with the Norman Conquest, so he was with during the Norman invasion in 1066, and that's a Norman sword. Now I don't know it's his sword. I don't know if he carried that sword, but it's the one I apply to that character. And then there's the rapier is another Ballou that I've identified from the 1500s, late 1500s. His two sons, or his son and his nephew, are the two Bakers, or the two Ballous that come to Rhode Island and or Boston, and eventually down here to Virginia. And those swords are represented. Then the Bakers were border reavers in northern England on the Scottish border. So there's an English sword for that. And, so it's all these characters. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write up the documentation and put them together, and hopefully, possibly maybe do a calendar next year of the sword, the history of the sword, the history of the type of the sword, and who it was in my family and how it relates to the character in my family.
Man.
So
I'm interested to see that when it comes out.
It's kind of a deep dive into family history.
Are you going to do any kind of release of that once you have it all printed up and typed out?
Yeah. If I decide, like I said, I get these ideas, but my follow through is absolute garbage. So if I can find somebody to work with on it, I want to do like a calendar. Like I said, with all the swords.
Yeah.
Through history, starting at the oldest and moving through and putting the documentation down of, again, when the sword was, what style the sword is, who generally used it, why it's related to my family member, and go from there.
That's awesome.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's a lot of fun, and it's fun when people come over and they go, "Well, who's that sword?" And I'm like, "Oh, you know."
Yeah.
There's 2 swords missing. I'm doing one for my son, and I haven't gotten my sword up there yet. So,
Is your sword going to be a Scottish basket hilt?
That's what I was thinking.
well, I do. I already have a Scottish basket hilt up here for my grandfather in the McCornack family. So I am not quite sure what I'm doing for myself. Probably a pirate cutlass.
Nice. I like it.
Just cause.
Yeah.
And my son's sword, he wants to get his maternal side involved, and so sort of the Belarus, the Russian Jewish Cossacky kind of thing.
Oh, that'll be
cool. Probably a Cossack sword for him. So
Nice.
That'd be awesome. Now you've got, if I'm correct, you've got some knives that are starting to be produced that Baker Blades will be selling. Is that right?
Well, yeah. I mean, the things I make, I played with some manufactured blades this year. I'm not. Again, they came out really good,
right.
And I like them a lot, and I'm going to take them with me. But there's something in my brain that says I didn't make all of this.
Mm.
You know, I didn't make it from start to finish.
Yep.
You know, I had the shape, laser cut and then quenched for me, and then I put the handles and do the grinding and put the handles on them. So to me, I kind of feel like I'm cheating.
It's stock removal. It's not forging.
Stupid. Yeah. Absolutely stupid. Wherein if I make something if I make something myself from scratch,
that's so cool.
Every part of that is pretty much me. I've shaped the handle. I've, hammered the metal. I've, stacked it and even built through the leather work. So those are the things I'm more excited with selling. And on that note, the next month, first week of next month is the Texas Select knife show.
Yeah, the Texas Select Custom Cutlery event hosted by Phoenix Knives at the Austin County Fair Convention and Expo Center in Belleville, Texas. Yeah, there you go. There's the flyer for it.
Yeah, and Jay's going to be down there too, and I haven't seen Jay in months, so it'll be fun.
Nice.
Yeah,
so, two of the Forged and Fire judges, yourself and, like you said, and Jay, and you've got some. Let's see, I want to pull the schedule up here because when you plan your trip, there are some things that you need to know about, and one of those things is happening at 12:30. And that is the historic
the Eclipse,
swords.
right?
Well, no, the historic swords seminar
on
the stage. Me, yeah, that is that's hosted by one David Baker. So what can we?
Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, what can we? You better get to work on your talk there. What can we expect from the historic swords seminar? That's a lot of S sounds.
I'm bringing a bunch of swords. Some of the ones that are on the wall probably come with me. What I like to when I do this, I actually did a talk yesterday at the Hammer-In that was here in Richmond. I try to dispel some of the myths about swords right off. That there's not a best sword. That it's not a blood groove. It's damn fuller, and the body doesn't have suction. God. Never understood that stupid argument. It makes me crazy.
Blood groove just sounds cool. That's why people call it the blood groove.
It lets the blood out because the body has suction. You ever poked a hole in yourself?
Yep.
Yeah. It doesn't suck anything in.
No. It will bruise the bone if you poke a deep enough hole. I did that.
Pretty much start leaking immediely.
Yeah, I got my first boning knife for Christmas because
anything gets pressurized.
Yeah, we've been butchering been getting some primal cuts of meat. And then I've been butchering them at the house. And the Benchmade blade that my parents got me, that's one of their really nice skinning knives, went right through the tip of my finger and nailed the bone in my middle finger. And that joker, there was no suction. But there was a lot of pain for
Spurting.
about a month. Anytime I touched it, I would go to pick up my coffee and be like, "Oh, son of a!" Then they're like, "Oh, did you burn
it's
yourself?"
always on
Like,
a finger
no.
that when you reach into your pocket, you rake it right
Oh,
across.
for
the
sure. Yeah, that's it. That's it for
Oh,
sure.
No, I've had the disgusting sore on the knuckle of this hand for months because every time I reach into my pocket for something, I rip the scab off of it and start leaking all over everything. So, but anyway, so the historic stuff that I do is I bring examples that are, and the examples I have are all based on existing, types of swords, and I let people touch them, I let people feel them, I let people pick them up and see why things are certain ways.
Yeah.
Why is scale important? Why is balance important? Why is weight important? And where are they important and how do you apply them and things like that? So it's a lot about making swords and making them for what they are, which is weapons. I mean, I know a lot of guys who make beautiful, beautiful, beautiful swords, and they will look great above the fireplace and they'll look great hanging on the wall. But any of these swords behind me, I'll grab and fight with them. When they're made as weapons, they're made to be weapons. I hope I never use one as a weapon, but that's what they're made for. And to do that properly, you have to understand certain things about how to make them and what the parts are and where the parts go. And a lot of times there's parts that when you see them in books, you just don't see all the things that are inside the hilt.
Yeah.
The things that are behind the guard when you see it in the cabinet in the museum. Then those are the things that, it's interesting when you're studying something and you have been building the things that you're studying for a few years, and then you get your hands on an original or two, or in my case, there was 4. And you go, oh, crap, I've never made one of these right in my life. Everything out the window, start over again. The dimensions are wrong, the thicknesses are wrong, the weights are wrong, the balances are wrong, everything's wrong. But you only get that by getting your hands on something that's been built properly or to the proper specs or has the proper parts involved in it. So that's a lot of what my talk is about. And they're also buying a box of pool noodles. So hopefully we'll have time and people who have never cut before, as long as everybody's being smart and safe, I usually let people who have never cut before cut on pool noodles. And everybody says the same thing. It's a pool noodle. I cut it with my pocket knife. Man, they move out of your way. They fall over. They bend around your sword if you don't do it right. And you just look like a nut.
What's harder to cut, the pool noodle or the tatami mat?
It takes more power to cut the tatami mat. It takes a very sharp blade and very good alignment. But a tatami mat usually doesn't move out of your way. I mean, you either just don't have enough energy to muscle through, or you don't have a sharp enough blade, or your alignment's terrible. Pool noodles, if your blade isn't sharp, it doesn't cut. If your alignment's not right, it doesn't cut. If you change, a lot of people scoop when they're cutting, they make a motion like this as opposed to going straight through. If you change your alignment during the cut or scoop, it doesn't cut. So it shows you when you're doing it right and when you're doing it wrong, and it does it at a price range that's a lot lower than tatami mats.
Yeah.
Tatami mats are expensive and a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
They don't come pre-rolled. You got to roll the damn things up, and pay for them and soak them, and then you screw up your cut and you cut too low and you screw that mat up. Well, throw that out.
Now you got to start over. Yeah.
Hope that you cut high enough to where you can just use it again.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The pool noodle you can get
2 or 3 cuts out of every one of those things.
Yeah, and if you're getting them now where they're like a little out of season, right before pool noodle season really kicks in, You can get them
yeah,
at
you might be able to get them on sale.
Amazon, buy them by the case.
Yeah, the Dollar General has them right now, 2 dozen for $12 over just right across the street. Like we were looking at it, yeah.
$12 for 24 of those pool noodles.
Yeah, we need them for some of our kids' programs this summer, and we were like, well, where can we get pool noodles? And we saw them, and I was like, we're buying them right now because they're going to be $3 a piece here in about a month and a half. So,
yeah, that's it. And at the end of summer, come fall, you can have a cutting competition at your place.
That would be awesome.
Once they're all cut up, you can still use them as insulation.
That's perfect.
But for me, as somebody who teaches this stuff, for me as somebody who builds these things, and for me as somebody who really enjoys the history of these things, the experience of having your hands on one of these things often changes how you look at them, how you approach them, how you build them, and I just want to see more people building. I want to see more people making. And it's a great way to excite people into doing it. The first time they cut, they go, I need to get a sword and a box of pool noodles. Then they send you videos of them in the backyard with a machete beating the hell out of pool noodles.
Yeah. Beating is right. You're just hitting it with the flat of the blade and everything else.
There's a lot of noodle flogging that never makes it on the
No, that was perfect.
Not to use noodle flogging.
No, that's going to be this episode's YouTube short.
Noodle vlogging with Dave Baker.
Noodle flogging.
That's what you can look forward to at
Yeah,
the Texas Select
that was
events.
when I was back in my stage name as Man in Brown Socks.
So that's the Historic Sword Seminar where you can noodle flog with Dave Baker on April 6th.
So many
and
parents are
7th.
just not bringing their children.
Yeah, there
anymore.
you go. Even with the discounted rate for kids, they're just not coming anymore.
Yeah.
So
No, I mean, I'm really excited. We've talked before that I don't really come from the knife world,
right.
it was one of the things that I've really enjoyed is becoming part of the community. It's. So I haven't done a lot of blade shows, and this is actually the second blade show I've actually taken things to sell at.
So what are you taking to sell at the blade show?
Oh God, there's a bunch of stuff. I've got some.
Let's get a preview of some of those
I've got
things.
a couple of cutlasses, a couple other swords. I've got a bunch of knives from Scottish dirks to upscale buffalo skinners to some Viking saxes and things like that. So,
that's too cool.
It's all over the place. I mean, it's kind of like my brain. But I go on these deep dives down things, and since we stopped filming the show, in September, I've kind of taken these months to work on this project behind me, and one of the things that this is about is to try to make things as accurate as I could, with using some techniques that I may not have used before, and just dial in a craft as opposed to the past 8 years, which I've been pretty much just working for the show, and everything I built had to be built on such a compressed timeline that I didn't get to finish anything the way I wanted to finish them.
Yeah.
There's a sword up there. I hand sanded the blade for 2 days straight.
Wow.
That will make you crazy, by the way.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Just saying.
Yeah, we, Matt and I once, as a punishment for, did we lie? Is that what it was?
Lie or theft of materials or
something like
of
that
nature.
Yeah, my dad and his brother purchased a 16-foot trailer that they put diamond tread plate floor in.
Yeah.
And it got left out in the rain before they sealed it. And so our punishment for the day was we were given hand sanding blocks. And we were told to
I don't know that we were even given blocks.
I don't think we were given blocks
we were
either.
given hand sand.
We were given
paper.
Yeah,
we were
that's
given
it.
paper and all right, sand.
Yeah, we
sand
were
away.
given paper and gloves and told this needs to be shiny by the end of today so that we can seal it.
And then if we asked, so how do you do this? How long is this going to? Oh, they'd come over with a power tool. It should just go like this. Yeah.
Someone with the
Yeah,
wire
so we
brushing.
can use that?
Yep.
No,
Nope.
can't use it.
You cannot use that.
Here's this.
Yeah, no,
This
that's
is
a
how
good
fast
one.
you should be
Kneeling
doing it.
on tread plate is a bad thing.
It was,
mean,
young knees
even
back
if-
in the day.
And it was out in the hot sun, so we were just like, oh, this is awesome. Greatest thing ever to see a power tool do that in 2 seconds. And then at the end of it, I think we were given
We were doing
quarters.
25 cents each.
And we thought, vending machine, we're going to get a soda out of this at least. Nope, not so much. And that's what you have to give to tithe now.
That was one of the most, I guess, solid lessons we've ever learned.
It was a thorough, well thought through punishment.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And we did a horrible job sanding it.
Oh,
I mean,
it's
we
just
did the
the
best
worst.
that we thought we could at the time. And then they came back, with their power tools and finished it up.
What about that?
Third
What about
game.
that?
Right.
What about that? Yeah.
It should
I
look
remember
this
painting-
shiny.
I remember painting whiteboard fence one summer. My uncle driving by and throwing dust all over it and coming back and saying, well, you got to repaint that. There's dust all over it. I was like,
That is one of the things I think that is lost somewhat on our current generations is having the older men just stand around and quote supervise a project.
oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you're digging post holes.
Yeah.
You got a post hole digger in the summer in California desert
Yep.
where every time you hit the ground, your shoulders break.
Mm-hmm.
The dang thing bounces. Then your cousin gets there with the iron bar and digs it out. And then you get the post hole digger out. It's like, oh my God. And it's like the line's not straight. Move that hole over. Excuse me.
It started in the right spot, I swear.
Yeah. Yeah. Those were the good old days.
No, I mean, honestly, God, it's so hard to, the whole spare the rod, spoil the child thing. Beating children is not conducive to anything, but there were hard learned lessons when I was a kid. The punishments were never, being hit. I think my mom spanked me once, my dad spanked me once. I think that was it. But man, go out and you have to pull the weeds. It's 100 degrees out in Riverside in the summer, and you need to weed everything over there because you forgot to water the grass and it's all browned out. That was your chore. You didn't do it. This is the payment for what you didn't do. There were consequences.
Yeah.
And they weren't, like I said, my family, they were not physical consequences other than the fact that you had some really nasty, hard work to do.
Yeah.
Then my mother could just look at the ground and say, I'm so disappointed, and just rip my heart out and throw it on the sacrificial altar.
Yeah. Yeah, I think our mom was said to have been able to control our entire friend group with just a couple of looks.
Yeah.
Because that was it. That was all it needed.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, there were a
When
lot
you
of
heard your middle name,
brutal.
there were 3 women when I was growing up that knew 4 women who knew my middle name. My mom, Dorothy Nelson, Marge Carpenter, and my aunt. And if I heard my middle name, I knew I was. It was done. And all 4
100%.
of those women had the right to punish me.
Yep. It was gonna be a bad time if that was the
It's like,
case.
Right or not,
when are you
women
going to be
find a
home,
way.
son? Well, I'm not done weeding the carpenter's yard yet.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. It was there was a lot of the we wanted to go hang out. Our granddad had like 20 acres, and we always wanted to go be out at his place because we could go shoot skeet out there, or we could go help out with the animals, or learn how to ride the tractor and all that. And
Look
then
for snakes.
yeah, we could do all kinds of stuff. And then there was the, hey, you're going to go do some yard work at your granddad's house because he needs it done. And this week, these are all of the notes we got from your teacher and your principal. And so we want you to know we're sending you out there with 2 5-gallon jerry cans, and you are mowing the front 10 acres with this push mower. It's like, but he's got a tractor. And it's like, yeah, but he
And a
he
riding
does.
lawnmower. And,
he does. But you know what else he has a Saturday where he gets to sleep in because you're going to go do it with this push mower, and you're going to do it away from the house so that you don't disturb him. It's like, okay.
Oh, pain.
Then there were those
The
weekends
pain.
too where they,
I feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
your mother doesn't want you
it
to
was-
use this chainsaw, but climb up in that tree.
but at the same time, and I had a talk with my cousin about this recently. A lot of the work we did, it was an adventure.
Oh, no doubt.
And my cousin's 4 years older than me, so I'm sure for a number of the years I was just a pain in the ass who was tagging along. But it was an adventure. We were digging irrigation ditches, or we were, cleaning out this, or we were moving pipes, we were driving tractors, we were bringing in hay, we were doing all these cowboy things. I mean, we're feeding cattle and moving cattle, and
Every hole dug is a search for
our
treasure.
ass,
Yep.
and you'd get to. It only hurt when you got to done with all your chores and you got to lunch, and it was going to be the hot afternoon. You wanted to go over the river and swim, and that's when you realized that you had a punishment coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were going to be stretching barbed wire all afternoon instead of fishing. So, and again, it wasn't often. We didn't get punished because we didn't do a lot of dumb stuff, but every once in a while we did something incredibly stupid, like blow something up or catch something on fire and put a bullet through something that didn't need a bullet. And then you caught hell.
Yeah.
There were rules. The rules were, this is what I love about my childhood. There were rules that were set, and they didn't change. There was consistency. The rules didn't change. And if you broke them, you knew you were breaking them.
Right.
You didn't have to guess. You knew you were breaking the rule when you did what you did. And sometimes breaking the rule was just a matter of being dumb, and not thinking before you did something. And that was one of the rules. Think before you do it.
But that's not fun.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I had an idyllic childhood. I truly did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, hard stuff, injuries, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I would not change any of it.
Yeah.
And I know that many, many people just don't have that. They didn't have that.
Yeah.
They don't look at the things that I thought were magic. They just don't look at as magic.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Well, my sister didn't.
Yeah.
They push me. They'd drive by the ranch and push me out by the gate, and my sister would go, "I'm not going.
Yeah.
I'm not going." But she had, got hay fever and her eyes swole up with the cats,
Right.
and so there was. She didn't enjoy it. And me, I was, So the joke was that I had no skin on my knees until I was like 14.
Which is perfect.
We were always running around and falling down. I mean, it was, and falling down. I still have a phobia about shorts because of tearing myself to shreds on the decomposed granite that was all the playgrounds and the ranch and everything else. So,
yeah.
I mean, I remember my mother once. This is a great one. My cousin and I were doing something. I can't remember what. He was at my house or something. So anyway, we were muddy and messy and out in front of the grocery store while my mom was in getting groceries, because you could do that with kids back then. You could leave them outside the grocery store and they'd be there when you got back.
100%.
And some woman said, she said, "Well, were you two raised in a barn?" And my mother responded, "You don't think we let them in the house, do you?" So it wasn't, we don't think we let them in the house. It was, you don't think we let those in the house. She didn't even give us a human thing.
Wow.
We were just those.
Just the monsters that were over there.
Oh yeah,
man.
The little beasts. We take them home and hose them off before they're allowed inside.
That was kind of the way of things. I mean, I remember the first time we found out what a 22 bullet would do to a sealed can of Barbasol.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Been there, done that.
Yep. And then we found out later that afternoon how much
something
Barbasol
explosive,
cost.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, the hairspray lit on fire. So I
yeah.
think we lit a candle and then shot a bullet through I think that was when we burnt something.
Yep. Yeah,
because it spun with flames coming out of it.
Which is awesome.
Probably had it on top of a hay bale.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The safest place for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Dry grass.
Yeah. Well, the hay bale keeps it far enough away from us to where we don't get hurt, right? That was always the logic.
I just laughed at somebody online called me a Gen Xer the other day, and I said, Gen X, we didn't play with lawn darts, we invented them.
That's right. Back when they had the sharp metal tips on them.
We didn't have
not the plastic nubs.
Plastic big wheels. We had metal pedal cars.
Yep.
Those things had razor blade edges. And you put them in the sun. You could cook on them.
Yeah. I miss the metal slide.
I remember taunting a bull and being able to go to the haystacks.
So we had one when I was a kid called the meat grinder.
Yeah.
It was this old fire engine, one of those metal ones.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a seat on it that was, teeny, and you'd stuff yourself in there. But the pedals, all the rubber had fallen off the pedals.
Oh.
And the pedals weren't on any kind of a slipping gear. No. So once they started rolling, they were moving.
So you get your shins.
So those things are down near your feet, and you're trying to keep your feet off of it. And I lived on a street that was like this steep. So you got up some street. We actually bolted 2x4s to the sides so you could drag them as brakes.
There you go.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Many children bled on the meat grinder.
No doubt.
No one actually lost the toe.
Mother of invention.
We were pretty sure it was going to happen when they finally threw that thing away.
Yeah. Oh. So there is one question that people in the Rev and Rep group and from
I didn't do it.
Yeah, well, so the Rev and Rep group, the David Baker fan page, the Forged in Fire group, everybody wants to know the same thing, and I know you probably don't have the answer for it, but I got to ask you anyway. When's the next season of the show coming out, man?
Okay, so this is straight up what I know, and I literally was in contact with one of our execs like a week and a half ago. The network is shuffling things all over the place. Mm-hmm. They don't know where they're going to fit us in. There are 25 to 30 shows that have not been aired that we've already filmed.
Right.
So that's a season. That's a year of programming, basically. Show 15, repeat 15, show 15, repeat 15.
Yeah. So
season 10 basically has not aired. We aired, I think, 8 pieces of content that were part of season 10, and now there's the 20 or more left over. We don't know when they're coming back on. The show has not been canceled, but we won't be filming again in this calendar year because they've got the shows.
Yeah.
So we don't know when they're going to relaunch. We're all hoping they'll make a big deal out of it. They just never have. I mean, the network's never really made a big deal out of the show. We've kind of carried our own weight since the beginning, which is impressive. But at the same time, I would love to get the show to a new market. I would love to get the show to a new audience. I think we're advertising to our existing audience right now.
Yeah.
So it'd be really fun to really introduce new people to the show and bring more people to the idea of making and building and watching these Smiths that come compete who are just so amazing.
You guys have kind of become darlings of the streaming services because just about every streaming service wants a piece of Forged in Fire. We were watching, we were working our way through the new series Bad Batch on Disney Plus, and it suggested for us. Where it was like, do you want to watch Bluey? Because we've got an 18-month-old who doesn't want to watch the show. He just wants to listen to the theme song on repeat. And then we've got the new episodes of Bad Batch that had come out, and right next to that was Forged in Fire. And I know we've seen you on Netflix and Hulu, and we've seen every streaming service loves Forged in Fire.
Right. So the backstory on that, as far as I understand it, is A&E Networks was going to raise some money, so they sold their entire catalog. to Disney Plus and their subsidiaries or their connected things. So Netflix has two or had two seasons. I don't know if that their contract on that has run out.
Right.
Disney Plus has like 1 through 5 and then 8 and 9 and and then nothing that hasn't aired. And then Hulu has, I think, the same thing Disney has. I think they're connected somehow. I don't know.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of service, and there's like a Samsung Forged in Fire channel.
What?
Oh, yeah. It's like you can get it on your phone or something. I don't know.
That's too cool.
But the thing is that other than being in a suggestion box for you because you watched some sword shows or whatever, there's just never been an ad.
Yeah, which is crazy to me.
Outside of the History Channel television channel itself, there's just never been an ad.
All right, so
and that we've gotten to the size we did with just by word of mouth basically is really impressive. And I'm proud of the guys I work with, and I'm proud of the whole team that put this together. From Brittany, our editor, she's fabulous, and Dan, who's been running the show for the last few years. Great work. But it would be so much fun to push it to, like I said, a larger audience, to people who have never been exposed to it and wouldn't go looking for it.
Yeah.
And that's where I really want to get the show. Yeah. So that's, over the next year, since I basically got a year off, learn to be a selling a bladesmith again, which I haven't been doing for years, and promote the show in ways that, whatever ways I can find that are outside of the box that we're kept in.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is
things like your show. I mean, I love you guys, and you guys have been great. I mean, shit. This is the 4th time we've been together?
I think this is number 5. You are not only were you our first legitimate guest, and I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but it took me I sent Dave a message on Facebook. He replied. So first, I freak out a little bit because Dave Baker replied to my message, and then he sends me right. So this was my fanboy moment. So then he sends me some contact info, and I sat on it for like weeks because I was like, I don't know what to say to him. I don't know what to do when I get David Baker on the phone. And so when I finally call and say, hey, this is Lucas, I sent you the message, and you're like, yeah, cool. I don't have your number saved in my phone, and I don't really pay attention to all that stuff. And I was like, all right, great. We talked for like a half an hour, and it was a great conversation. We really hit it off, and then I took another couple of weeks before I was like ready to book him. I was like, nope, I called him. It's definitely David Baker. It's real. And then they were like, all right, so when are we going to get him on the show? And I was like, I don't know, because now I'm so nervous about like doing the interview. And now, this is the 5th time, and I can't tell you how much that I appreciate you being so gracious.
You remember that first interview there, right?
Oh yeah.
No, the part that I don't think I ever told you that is I completely forgot about it.
Yes, I remember that.
It was a Sunday afternoon. I had a couple of drinks. You call up, are you ready? I'm like, yeah. I was asleep.
Absolutely.
And the whole time, let's see if we can do this. The whole time, the camera was kind of going,
oh, yeah.
And I was rambling. I was all over the place. It was hilarious.
It was magnificent.
Absolutely hilarious.
It was.
I mean, I ramble anyway, but
dude, it was so great.
There were a couple of ramblers from way back.
Yeah, it was so great for us. You were such a gracious first guest.
Well, I love you guys. You guys have been really good to me. You've been good to the show, and you guys were pretty much my second podcast I've ever done. So
really.
Wow. Yeah. So no, I've really enjoyed the entire thing, and again, it's when I first heard your name, the Reverend and the Reprobate, I'm going, great, or like a religious show. They're going to ask me about, what do you think of our Lord and Savior? Well, let's get started. So you guys ask great questions and we have fun.
Yeah.
And honestly, you get to a certain age, and if it's not making your life better or it's not fun,
Oh.
Yeah.
That's the truth, man. That's it. Well, speaking of having some fun, we end all of our interviews with a segment that we call Controlled Rowdiness. And Controlled Rowdiness is just a series of rapid-fire questions, which you can answer with as short or as long a reply as you would wish. Expect nothing from us by way of reply or response as we ask these questions. And to get us going, I'm going to turn it over to Big Mavie. What's up? You got our first question for CR.
Yeah, we were talking about everyday carries the last time. Well, I guess the first time you and I talked. And having your everyday carry, you told me that at the time you were carrying a Skinner around. What I thought was interesting is people that get into making, they got into it largely because they weren't happy with the selection out there. They couldn't afford whatever the selection was out there. Yeah. And then you ask them what they carry, and it's never their own stuff. Why is that?
Yeah. I think a lot of makers just make things and off it goes. It's the cobbler's kid never has shoes. The hairdresser's kid always has a shaggy mop on their head. A lot of makers make things so they can get them out in the world. I make things and then I panic about getting them out in the world because someone might judge them and tell me I'm not good at it. So I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, you put something on your hip, you carry it for 2-3 days. Someone goes, "Oh, that's cool. What do you make those?" "Yeah, I make those." "Do you sell them?" "Yeah." "Well, here, can I have that one?" "Yeah, sure, here." And away it goes. Yeah. And guys who are making things on a commission basis where you're taking individual orders to make things, they're always behind. So they're never making anything for themselves.
Yeah, it's true. I guess if you're carrying your own stuff, you're either happy enough with it that you're not selling it, or you're just not happy with it and nobody else is either. So
I carry all kinds of stuff. My thing is, I always like having a knife on me, but I don't like going into places and intimidating people. Not intentionally, of course, but even subconsciously. When you sit down and you've got, because I carry like a fairly large Fuko knife, or I'll carry this sometimes. A lot of people look at that and they see that leather hanging off of me and they think it's a gun. And people get intimidated by seeing a big knife, and even short knives and big scabbards intimidate people. So, I've started carrying the one I carry now. It's in my case. It's in a different room. It's 3.5 inches with a little short teardrop handle. It's not big. It's a nice, Damascus blade with, the nickel line on it and everything else. But I kind of just carry it as a business card. I mean, not to say I don't use it, but intimidating people by what you wear is just not something I'm into. If I'm working, I've got a knife on. If I'm traveling, I've got a knife on. If I, out in the swamp, I've got a knife on. But when I go to dinner, I've got something that nobody's seeing. It's not concealed.
Right.
And some of those things are knives by other people, whether it's really small flip knives that I have and things like that. It's more just to have the tool than it is to show off the fact that I've got blades on me.
Speaking of going out to dinner, how irritated are you whenever you get a steak knife that is dull? Are you
Well, that's one of
irritated
the
enough
reasons I
where
carry
you take
my own.
out?
I have
that's what I was
many
gonna
occasions.
say.
The problem is if you've got a steak that the steak knife can't cut, you got a shitty steak.
It's a fair
Yes.
point.
I mean,
But if you've got a
honestly,
steak knife that cuts like a
table
spoon,
knife should be able to cut a steak.
That's true.
And if you've got a steak that you can't get a table knife through, then you got a chef who doesn't know how to cook a steak.
That's fair.
Or you've got a restaurant that buys really cruddy meat.
Or you have poor taste in how your steak was cooked.
I
want it well done.
usually don't get steak or grilled meat when I go out because I'm really good at cooking it. I enjoy the steaks I make.
Yep.
There's a couple of steakhouses that I love. Up in Connecticut, there's one, and in New York, there's a couple. But it's like get something that I don't usually cook, as opposed to something that I like my steaks a certain way, and I know places that make them that way, and I certainly make them that way myself. So yeah.
Right on. Hypothetical, okay? Follow me on this. All right. It's the middle of May. Ben Abbott calls you and he says, "Look, Dave, I know your birthday's coming up in June. I want to celebrate, and I will make for you anything that you want. I will forge for you any knife that you want, any sword that you want. What are you asking Ben Abbott to make you for your birthday?"
Well, the cool thing with Ben is that Ben's a blacksmith as well as bladesmith.
Yeah.
And blacksmithing is something that I'm looking more and more at and enjoying more and more of. As a housewarming gift, Ben made me a boot scraper with my BB logo on it.
Really?
Yeah. An old school one, where it's two wrought iron pieces that are curled with the metal plate in between, and on the metal plate is the B. That was my housewarming gift.
That's pretty cool.
That's just so over the top perfect for someone like me who loves old stuff. So I would probably ask him to do like a smithed sign holder for at the end of my driveway.
All right.
Because I'm putting eventually I'll put up a sign that says Baker Blades and or Baker's Landing, the home of Baker Blades, or something like that. I haven't figured the sign out yet.
That would be cool.
But yeah, something like that where he can show his blacksmithing skills, which I think are easily on par with his bladesmithing skills.
Right on.
Yeah, incredibly talented man.
All right, you're up.
What was your favorite thing that you smithed other than a Scottish basket hilt? Start to finish.
Probably the original one of the Border Reaver. It's what's considered an Irish basket hilt. It's very similar to a Scottish basket hilt, but it's more.
It sounds like you just skirted the way that you were going to answer the question from Scottish to Irish.
Well, the thing is, it's not an Irish hilt. The British back in the day called anything slightly Gaelic Irish.
Okay.
And these were actually a common hilt type for British horsemen. The Border Reavers carried swords like this. They were kind of a English version of a Scottish basket hilt. But I got the opportunity last year I was commissioned to make a copy of an original. And the gentleman who I did it for had the original. So I was able to hold the original, measure the original, weigh the original. The blade on the original is horrendously rusted and in rough condition. So he wanted a version of the sword as if it were ready to use. So I got to do that, and then I made myself one.
That's
Nice.
Too cool. All right.
Yeah.
Last question. You have had so many different facial hair phases since you began Forged in Fire. You are known for your very well manicured mustache. So I've got a question. Are you, when it comes to shaving, you shave with a safety razor, with something that you forged on your own, or do you just shave with a Scottish basket hilt?
Actually, that basket hilt over there, the McCornack basket hilt, you could shave with. Funny question. Years ago, you asked me a question about shaving. We go down another rabbit hole.
Let's do it.
I'm in.
So years ago, I spent a year writing with a fountain pen only.
Okay.
And not a fountain pen, but one that you had to dip. And the reason for that was to slow myself down. Just try to slow down my thinking and really concentrate on what I was writing, so I didn't leave letters off and reverse things and everything else. And we had some fun with it. Then I got into a safety razor, double-edged, open top. And shaving with that, and honestly, nothing really shaves closer than that. People say, "Oh, this one's got 9 blades and it's got suspension," and yeah, that's cool. But you go to a hospital, and what do they say? Shave you with a single-edged razor. Period. Go to a good barber. What does he use to trim everything? A single-edged razor. And then when I bought this house and I was remodeling the bathroom, inside the wall, I found in a little blue cardboard box a German straight razor.
Really?
German made. It's somewhere probably in the 40s or 50s, but looking up the company. So I put an edge on it and gave myself a straight razor shave a couple of times. I was still not wearing a full beard at the time, but I think that's on the bucket list. That's on the man list as far as I'm concerned, is to give yourself a straight razor shave at least once in your life, but do it with good equipment.
I'm giving myself plenty of razor burn trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
Razor burn is not the hard part. Cutting a chunk of your cheek off is the hard part.
Oh.
Just slow and steady, but it's cool. And if you've got a barber that's licensed to do it, go to a barber and have one done. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I have had one done by a barber, and it is magnificent. The hot towel and the hot shaving cream and the whole thing.
Honestly, make an event out of it. If you have a lady friend or you plan going out to dinner or something, have her go to the spa and get the nails done. Go to a barber and get the full treatment.
Oh, yeah.
With the
so
straight
much
razor
trust
shave and
involved in
the
that.
shampoo and the haircut and the whole thing. You come out feeling like a new human.
It's one thing to have your cheek shaved,
Pampering
but
yourself is something you should do.
All right.
And you should do it on a daily basis. And I think the ritual, if you shave, the ritual of shaving can be your morning start. Get yourself the badger hair brush.
Oh, yeah.
And the soap,
Yes.
and heat up the water in a hot towel for a minute. Put it on. Take the time. It's great. I mean, it's one of those things that when you get into doing, I mean, now I go, I'm done. But taking that time, honestly, remembering doing that is why a few months ago I shaved everything off because I hadn't done it in forever. So I lathered up and trimmed everything with the scissors and got the safety razor out and did all that. So yeah, I think pampering yourself is a really good thing to do, and having a bit of a ritual, shaving with a safety razor and soap and a brush is a great way to have that in the morning for a start. It's really cool.
I think truer advice has never been spoken. That was, and the days where I used to have to shave my whole face, we did get the Pro Rasso, and then our folks got us the badger hair brushes for Christmas, and it was magnificent. You can get this shaving cream with a little bit of eucalyptus in it.
A little bay rum to finish with.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
yep.
I mean, I don't know when it happened, but historically, those putting yourself together in the morning before you walk out the door rituals were a part of what men did. And you didn't only do it for yourself, but you did it for the people that you were going to interact with during the day. And taking the time to do it, to look put together. Now, granted, I go to the hardware store and jeans that so dirty they can stand up by themselves and a beat up cowboy hat, and God only knows what the hell I smell like. But if I plan on going somewhere that's the public, I try to take the time, and you show a sign of, you show a level of respect for the people you're going to be interacting with by taking care of yourself.
Yeah,
and it doesn't really cost you anything but a little bit of time.
There you go, Dave Baker. We cannot tell you how much we have appreciated your friendship to the show. Thanks so much for being on tonight, man.
Thank you.
No, my pleasure. Am I going to see you in Texas?
That's our plan. As long
You're
as
not having a baby at the time,
man.
Yeah.
So
I have
Kirsten.
delivered cattle. I can't help.
Well, you know what?
It's a similar process.
I'll run that by her, and we'll see how it goes. So
Please don't run it by her. I don't want her to hate me. I'm not comparing her to cattle in any way, shape, or form.
Glad you clarified.
yeah, that was a good move, dude. Thanks so much for being on the show, man. We appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you, and happy St. Patrick's Day.
David freaking Baker.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, dude, it's good to have you back in the saddle. It's good to be back on the Rev and Reprobate after a little bit of a hiatus. And I don't think there's anybody better way to do it, anybody better to do it with than with a guy who kind of got us kicked off on the show. So as a what's the best way to put it so that I don't get your Jocko Go flung at me? As an amateur hobbyist and bladesmith yourself.
Yeah,
right?
Very amateur.
Yeah, what does where does somebody like David Baker rank for you as far as, when it comes to, hey, these are the people that are influential in what I'm doing with my craft?
Probably number one. I really like his stuff. I like his attitude. I like his personality. It's a good dude to talk to. I've gotten a chance to talk to somebody else that was really influential to me and got some hands-on time with him, Harvey Dean.
Oh, yeah.
Harvey Dean is amazing.
He's
really
likes ABS Mastersmith, right?
Yeah. ABS Master. Some of his stuff that I've gotten to see really influenced me. He spent some time to show me some forging techniques. He didn't have to do any of it. Just took the time because we had a mutual connection through one of our uncles.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Uncle Ronnie.
That's cool.
So Uncle Ronnie and him talked a lot, and Uncle Ronnie was like, "Hey, you want to talk to this guy?" And I was like, "If he'll talk to me, sure, that'd be awesome."
Absolutely, yeah.
And so I got to go around his forge and talk to him about his various things, and he told me what works best for him, what doesn't. So aside from having some hands-on experience like that with somebody who is a master, David Baker for me he's right up there, if not number one. He's the dude that I'm just like, oh yeah, I want to listen to everything that this guy has to say.
Right on.
And whatever he's willing to share, just like with anybody that's a master in their craft, take what I can and try to use it.
I understand about a third of what he says whenever it comes to forging stuff, and that is only because you and I have hung out and I've watched the show. Like that's it. When he was you guys were talking about, oh, well, you pour the ingot and then you make the thing. And I was like, I know what an ingot is.
You've made ingots.
Yeah, from you and from Forged in Fire and from Skyrim. Those are my my frame of reference for ingots. Man, thanks so much for filling in as today's reprobate, dude. I really appreciate it. Doing these shows with you is always a blast, and it fits the title of the show. We're two best buds interviewing people we have no business talking to. Today is supreme evidence of that, and of all the best friends that I've had, you have been the most consistent, have been my best bud since your birth and since my ability to remember. So I appreciate you being here and on this piece of the adventure with me. Y'all make sure to check out all of the stuff from David Baker that's in the show notes. The Texas Select Custom Cutlery event is happening Saturday, April 6th and 7th from 9 to 4. Jay Nielsen and David Baker are both going to be there. You can check it out at texasselectevent.com. Links to that and a few other things that he talks about are in the show notes. Make sure that you email people over at the History Channel and let them know we want Forged in Fire back. Tell a friend about them, and thank you all so much for dealing with the 6-month hiatus that we've taken. Thanks for continuing to check out the channel, for liking, for subscribing, for being supportive, for all the notes people have sent us, letting us know that you're thinking about us, that you're praying for us, and we just appreciate it more than you will ever know. You guys stay hard, keep jamming, and we'll see you.
Hey, gang, I'm Dave Baker, and this is why you should never listen to the Reverend and the Reprobate unless you're drinking.